this is a platform for realists. What you have to start from is the position of an individual and how you experience the earth. I'm going to point out the obvious to you. You experience the earth as a level plane. That's your starting position. It is contrary and totally absurd to even take on the notion that you're existing on a rotund, curving space testicle. You do not experience curvature of the earth, curvature over standing bodies of water. These claims are contrary to your everyday experience. These claims of a globular earth are professed under the banner of science. But what you have to consider is science has subdivisions. Science has branches that are just language based, like mathematics, which is why it's categorised as a formal science. For people like ourselves, the layperson if you like, real people, we utilise and place relevance upon the natural sciences. In particular here, when we're talking about the dimensions of our reality and the substances within it, we're talking about physics. Physics is physicality, physical substance. So when we hear claims being made about our physical reality by other human beings, those human beings are duty bound to produce practical references. Practical references mean that they show you and demonstrate the stuff that you can then take and recreate so that you can come to the same conclusion or refute the claims that are being made. We do not incorporate purely visible phenomena and try and assert that as some sort of proof, particularly when we have people omitting the geometry of our vision. Like earlier, I got a notification or a recommended for some debate channel by a guy called Josie, and I went, okay, I'm going to go and troll them for a wee while. And in there was a character called the Rumpus. Now, I asked this character, do parallel lines converge in reality? Now, the man danced and avoided and evaded until eventually he started saying perspective is dimensionality, and I was asking him, does it exist in the real world or does it exist in the eye? And I was getting a response of neither. When you look at something like converging parallel lines that appear to converge, like along a train track, it appears to your vision that the two lines are converging at a point. That is not happening in reality. You move around a Cartesian world, okay, a planar world. Your vision, how you view that, is a separate geometry. So when you come at me and you only have visible phenomena like I see circles on my TV screen, I see circles in the skies, therefore I live on a circle, I'm going to laugh at you. And you should be laughing at yourself because it's absolutely fucking ridiculous. So, when we're talking between human to human, we require practical references. As I said at the beginning, it's your experience that you exist on the level. Everything about your everyday lived life tells you that you are on the level. The claim that is contrary to that is the claim from the globe proponents. They try and shift the burden of proof continually. The reason that they get to shift the burden of proof is because so many people adopt a straw man cartoon model, flat earth model, concave earth model, whatever plastic gibberish you want to take on board. If you, however, take the stance from your direct experience, you are always the master, you are always in command. Anybody who is trying to convince you to abandon your direct experience, your common senses, are duty bound to convince you of that. And as far as I'm concerned, it's an outlandish claims that requires extraordinary proof that the globe just doesn't have. The only thing that it has is visible phenomena, omitting the geometry of vision, then interpreting that to fit their presupposed model. The globe, Earth and its proponents are cult lunatics, dishonest, vagrant scumbags. I have no horse in any race, and neither should you. You should be totally honest with yourself. As I say, strip everything back. Do not hand your authority over. Don't make idiotic statements like, oh, well, I'm not qualified to understand my reality, because that's you just giving authority and power to corrupt institutions. You have every power to discern and make your own mind up about what your reality is. People are in conflict from their direct experience of reality and what they know it to be, because they are presented with an image, a two-dimensional representation, an absurd representation of your world. When you hear the word science says, you have to ask, what science are we talking about here? Because if we're talking about physics, then you better start bringing forward the practical demonstrations that support your claims. But what I've uncovered and what I've realised through my journey here is that the globular earth incorporates formal science, language based. So they're either trying to pass off mathematical formula based on circular reasoning and presuppositions, or they're utilising barefaced sophistry. Sophistry just means a complicated way of bamboozling you by sounding intelligent and offering you big words and mantras to try and bamboozle you into conceding. Reality is very, very simple. This whole process is very, very simple. What's your claim? Demonstrate it. So, going back to what I was saying earlier about going to this debate platform, I heard them talking, I've got it recorded, I might play it for you later. But to give you an example of how these liars try and get out of things, they were making statements about how they cannot demonstrate a standing body of water bending because they need to remove themselves from the earth to some other imaginary reference frame in order to demonstrate that for you. They were also going on about the use of talcum powder. That could be something that you could incorporate into your knicker wearing, but we'll not go there. Anyhow, they're talking about talcum powder, talking about how they can't demonstrate a physical substance and its professed behaviours because of excuses. But yet they'll offer you up other supposed experiments like the Cavendish, which happened here on Earth, but the big massive Earth never got in the way of that. That's practicing pseudoscience. If I said to you, I can fly, but the only way I can show you that I can fly is that we need to go away from Earth because Earth gets in the way of it. But I can show you a picture and then tell you that the burden of proof is on you to disprove me and my ability to fly just because I've got an excuse. That's not how it works. That's dishonesty. You need to start being able to see through this bullshit. Because, as I said, the globular earth is a concept. It exists only as an image and in language. So it is going to be rife with lies, deceitful nonsense. I think critical thinking can be taught. I think that if you avoid dogmatic teachings and influence, then critical thinking seems to be something that comes naturally. It's only when they get into the realms of, you know, man-made conceptual gibberish that it becomes an issue. That's what starts to confuse. Well, for fuck's sake, there's that character there, the rumpus. There we go. Let's see what he's going to say here. Right, we'll give him a wee bit of attention. Right, the rumpus. You were asked. Parallel lines do not converge in reality, but they appear to converge to us when we look along parallel lines. So you said that it was a result of perspective, which we agree upon. So where is perspective? What is it an attribute of the rumpus? Is perspective an attribute of the real world, the external world, or is it an attribute of vision, the eye? Let's see if we get him dancing here. I'm not going to read any of your gibberish unless you answer to that point. Hurry up, sack sniffer. You can come in and tell me if you want. Send me a link, send me an email, I'll send you a link. You can come and tell us all where perspective is, because apparently in your world it's no out there in reality and it's no in the eye. So where is it? Where does perspective lie in the whole shebang? Get the state of you, the rumpus. You've came here, you've probably been egged on, right? And you've been shiting yourself, and now you've made idiotic, stupid fucking statements again, and now you're running away. And this guy, the rumpus, is one of their best, apparently. This is one of their best globe proponents. An utter cretin. I mean, just contemplate the sheer fucking stupidity, right? We're all standing and we're looking along a set of train tracks, and we all look and we agree to each other. These train tracks appear to converge. They appear to go like that and touch each other in the distance, right? And then we ask the questions. Right, well, we know, because we can take a stick that's the distance between the two train tracks, and we can go along that train track and establish that they stay and remain parallel. So therefore, we can only conclude that it's a function of the eye. And then people at Rumpus are going to come along and say, no, it's distance. Fud. What a fucking spanker. I know, the administrator, fucking brilliant, isn't it? Some people just fancy themselves. No, people that are rumpus, I'm not going to screen share them. You can't trust wee idiots like that. Where are you, son? I'll send the same link to the other email that you sent in. There you go. Oh, you're here. Clickety click, click, click. Clickety click, click, click. That's a nervous click. I can tell that's a nervous click.
You're a moron.
That's a very good introduction.
Well, you are a moron.
So the rumpus. Parallel lines, right? They appear to converge. Now, you've stated that it's perspective, correct?
Yes.
And perspective is an attribute of what?
It's an attribute of the joining the ray of light from an object to an observer.
So the
you
eye.
don't need an eye. So do you think, for instance, you have perspective if you just had a pinhole camera?
Perspective is in regards to vision.
Yes, we know that.
Right.
Yes.
So vision requires an apparatus.
So pinhole camera isn't an eye, is it?
But it's still subject to perspective.
Correct. That's why it's got nothing to do with the eye.
Of course, it's a vision. It's a visible phenomena.
Of course it is. Yes, we know
so
that.
Visible phenomena is in the fucking. It's in the word. It's a clue. Vision.
That's got Doesn't matter whether your eye is there or not.
So if you don't have an optical
Utterly
device,
irrelevant.
if you don't have an optical device, then you're not seeing anything.
The perspective effect is caused by the distance between an observer and the object. The fact there's an eye there or not is utterly irrelevant to the travelling of the light rays or the direction of the light rays.
So are the train tracks converging?
No.
So
That's a
but they appear to
perspective
converge due to what?
Perspective of just perspective. That is a function of it's a geometric construction.
Are you saying
It's a
perspective?
geometric
Are you saying
construction.
perspective exists as an entity on its own?
Correct.
Show me it.
Well, I can show you the geometry of it if you like.
The geometry of what?
How perspective works.
So what are you going to draw me? Train tracks appearing to converge.
Well, I was going to show you the light rays coming from an object and how the angle
Rumpus,
between them
rumpus,
at the point of the
rumpus,
observer.
Listen, I know that your job is just to keep waffling on, but you're making an absolute cunt of yourself here, son. If you need
no, I
shame,
think
that's why you don't
projecting
show your
there.
face.
You're
This is
projecting.
why you don't show your face, because you'd be too fucking embarrassed. You would be affronted. You'd be scared that somebody would recognise you in the street and poke your eyes out, because apparently you don't need your eyeballs.
I do to see, but that's got nothing to do with perspective.
Well, what's it to do with then?
What's it to do with? Is that in English? Okay, what's it to do with what? It's to do with the geometry
Rumpus,
of the light
you can
rays
try and undermine
coming
me.
from an object to an observer.
You can try and undermine me to try and get some sort of semblance of winning or whatever you think's going on in your wee stupid reality, son. But see us people here in the real world, we are absolutely buckled, laughing at how fucking pathetic you are, son.
You are detached from reality, you're a science denier, and you're a moron. You don't,
No.
Your opinion doesn't count.
Rumpus,
You're not qualified
Rumpus,
to have an opinion.
Rumpus.
You're not
You
qualified
are
to have
fucking-
an opinion.
Rumpus, you're only in here so that I can rip the shots right
You're
off,
not
son.
qualified to have an
All this
opinion.
does is affirm to people
You are
how
too
fucking
stupid to
absurd
have an opinion.
people that you
You're
actually
not
are.
qualified to have an opinion. You're not qualified to talk to
Even
me.
globe
You are
believers
too-
are cringing right
You
now.
are too stupid to know how stupid you are.
Even globe believers are cringing at how absurd you actually are, son. Perspective is not a function of the eye. It's not a function of the real world. It exists in some fantasy realm that the rumpus can't
It's a
display for
function
us.
of the geometry.
The geometry
It's a
of what?
function of the geometry.
Is it the geometry of the world or the geometry of vision?
It's the there's no world. That's a very nebulous term. It's the geometry of the light rays coming from an object to an observer. Whether the observer has an eye, whether the observer has an eye or not, it still is happening.
So observation means you need eyes.
Yes, but the perspective effect is still there whether there's an observer or not.
How are you going to show us that?
Well, it's still there. I can show you the geometry if you like, but do
Right,
you understand
do you know what I
geometry?
do, Rumpus? Right, everybody shut
You
their
understand
eyes.
basic geometry?
Everybody shut their eyes now, and Rumpus is going to draw us the geometry of your eyes shut.
The geometry of the situation is irrespective of whether you have any eyes.
Right, okay, son.
I mean,
Yes, I always remember this spot because it was right here. This was the very first time that I saw my wife. I was standing absolutely here, and I remember thinking, what an incredibly tiny woman she was. Absolutely tiny. She was about that size. Tiny little thing. It was only weeks later, as I got to know her, that I realized that was, of course, because she was a long way away.